Greetings, Ashen, the comic book hunter, here for another comic book hunt. All right, well, this week is going to be a bit small, so you got to bear with me. But before we get into that, let me break down what my live streams are all about. If this is your first time ever watching me, the comic book hunt is where I talk about comics that I picked up last week. I do a little review of every individual comic I picked up. And then in the center portion, I do a sort of miscellaneous section where I talk about whatever I feel like that week. Sometimes I talk about the giveaways that I do sometimes. Sometimes I talk about, a movie or whatever the case is, maybe manga, and then the third portion, I talk about upcoming comics that will be coming out next week and what my recommendations for you are based on, my experience as a comic book collector. So you might find some winners in there. All right. Well, with all that said, let us get on to our first and only comic book of the evening. The only thing I picked up last week. Yes, strange, huh? Well, Marvel, DC? No, none of that. What did I pick up? Well, let's see here. Whoa, Aggretsuko! Yes, this is the first Retsuko comic book, and I'm excited to have it in my hands. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Netflix series Aggretsuko, but my wife and I love it. And when I heard that they were coming out with the comic book for it, I immediately contacted my comic book shop because I did not have time to put it on my pull list. I had no idea it was coming out. And I had them set aside 3 comics for me, 2 of the regular cover, 1 of the cover B, just because I like my variation. So we are both collecting this series. Here, let me show you the second cover. Whoa, look at that. Yes. So, some people might be like, whatever. If you had picked up these comic books, if you watched the Comic Book Hunter last week and you followed my recommendation to pick up these comic books, then you would know there has been a significant price hike. These comics are going from $12 to $15. Cover B is going for like $20. This is the first American appearance of a lot of these characters. I'm not sure if they appeared in a Japanese comic book or any other form of promotion that I'm not aware. But as far as I know, this is a first appearance of all the main characters of the television show in comic books. So that was pretty cool. That's a nice little sticking point to pick up this comic book, even if you are not a fan of the show. But my recommendation is go watch Aggretsuko, and see Retsuko's adventures. She's the red panda, and she's got this sort of heavy metal personality that she keeps under wraps, and she lets it out when she's complaining about work, and she goes to a karaoke bar to do this. So it's just funny, and it's a good sort of anime cutesy story, but for adults and dealing with adulting. Anyway, since this is the only comic book I'm going to be reviewing this week, I'm going to just show you a few images of it, not just one. Normally I'll just show one image. So let's go to the first one here. This story, I did not know what they were going to do with Aggretsuko in comic books, but they started in a nice way. It's a nice self-contained story. And it's kind of funny. It plays off of zombies, the ever popular genre of zombies. But what we have to deal with here is that a sickness is going around the office, and everyone is sick, and Retsuko is trying to avoid this. And she stumbles across the band of surviving workers that are all trying to avoid sickness and locking themselves away from their fellow co-workers. They say that the authorities have been informed and are coming to take care of this infectious situation. And that leads to all kinds of chaos. I'm not going to spoil too much about this for you, but it is pretty funny. And I will say that for anyone who watches the show, there is some hilarious jokes based upon the characters that are in the story and that happen in here. So if you don't know the television show or the Netflix show, whatever you want to refer to it as, then you may not get some of the humor, but I laughed out loud a few times on this. No kidding. I thought it was quite hilarious. The animation isn't quite as good as the television show, in my opinion. It's a little more of a whimsical style. They're a little more loose with the art. But that's forgivable because the writing's okay. So I did enjoy that. And here we go. Here's the heavy metal side of Retsuko coming out when she's confronted by this terrible situation, and it's good. It all plays together very well. There we go. That's all the images I'm going to show you. The little sneak preview of it. If you're familiar with the show, you should really like this. And if you could get this cheap, just buy it for all the first appearances. That's my suggestion. Oni Press has a lot of good titles under their belt. They do stuff like with Rick and Morty and Invader Zim, and they do a pretty good job with all of it. I can't really complain. So that's that for the first portion. Very short, I know, right? This is going to be a short stream. So, and I'm kind of doing this under the radar since it's going to be so short this week. I didn't really feel like advertising this beforehand, so I'm just getting the stream out of the way, and then I'll post a link to it later. So if anyone pops in and you happen to see my live show, congratulations. It's going to be a rare occurrence. So let's talk about what I want to talk about in the center here. I picked up a movie this week, and I got it for like $5 off of eBay. That was like with shipping. Oh no, it was like $8. And I'm gonna just go ahead and talk to you for a minute about it. Not too long, but here we go. Oh man, Prometheus. Yes, I picked this up. Like, this movie is so ridiculously cheap. Even Alien Covenant sells better than this film. I guess people just don't know what to do with their copies of this, but I've been wanting this for a long time, actually. I went to go see this in theaters, and I quite enjoyed the film. I don't know how many of you own this or how many of you are trying to get rid of it. It does not have a very good reputation, but got the 2-disc set for $8, you know? And I try to collect all the Alien films. I got... I got 1 through Resurrection, and then I have Prometheus and Alien Covenant. And I know there's supposed to be another one in that series coming out, like a new Alien film that's supposed to cap off Alien Covenant. But who knows if that's going to come out or not. Or we could just say it ended darkly, and then it led to the original series. So whatever the case is, Prometheus is a pretty interesting film. Visually, it's very beautiful. There are a lot of interesting elements to it that make you think. There are some dumb decisions in it that don't make much sense. But overall, I would say that I enjoyed the film more than I disliked it. And I really felt that it fit in. And honestly, Alien Covenant was a little bit of a disappointment for me because I wanted them to get further away from the aliens and to explore this new race of beings, the creator race, and see where that led us. But instead of answering any questions, they immediately went in Covenant and wiped everything out. So that was kind of disappointing, but the film wasn't bad either. But Prometheus is what I got. It's the only Alien film I was missing. I don't really count the Versus films in this. Those are kind of Elseworld stuff, so I don't really collect those. But yeah, and then I do collect the Predator films too, but I keep those also, free from the AVP stuff. Okay. Well, that was the center portion. And this coming week, we have a few comics that I have to talk about. If you're familiar, if you come back week after week, you're probably going to be familiar with some of the titles I bring up. But here we go. X-Force. If you haven't been collecting X-Force, this is the X-Men series to beat. I've been loving this so far. I believe the writer's name is Percy, and he is great. He's going to be working on the upcoming Wolverine series. Seems like X-Force comes out a lot. It must be bi-monthly or more. But it's been great issues so far. The quality really hasn't declined too much since the first issue. The last one was a little bit less good than the rest, but it's nothing I'm not willing to overlook because the series has been so excellent so far. If you like brutality with Wolverine and assassinations and ultra violence and Frankensteinian monster assassins and all kinds of graphic imagery of weird scientific experimentation and stuff. This seems to be the series to go to. It's quite excellent. Definitely go pick it up. Next on my list is X-Men. This series I put next. You think I'd be putting X-Men first, but honestly, X-Men isn't as good as X-Force, but there is a lot to be garnered from this series. There's a lot going on. There's a lot that interests me. So my recommendation is stay on top of this. Jonathan Hickman is writing it. Even if it seems like a little gobbledygook sometimes, I think it's a series that's worth holding on to. And I think that it may tie into a lot of different series in small ways that we aren't yet aware of until we finally understand what they're doing. This is the cover I'm going to be picking up. I'm not sure what it's called, but it looks pretty damn cool. And so I'm going to be going with this one. Mother of Demons. This is part of the whole storyline that's going on with the Ghost Riders and the Hell War and all this kind of stuff. I think that this is Lilith, if I'm not mistaken. She looks very different than she used to look. But she is probably going to be involved in the Hell War. All these different powerful entities are trying to become the King of Hell. Johnny Blaze is, of course, King of Hell right now, and he's gone a little bit crazy with power. And so that's not working out too well. Danny Ketch has had his power stripped away from him as a Ghost Rider by Johnny Blaze, and he has been granted a new set of powers by a new master, and he seems to be able to want to use those to take out Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider. So it's going to be interesting. And then we have Lilith involved too, who is rallying the forces of hell. She seems like she wants to sit on the throne. And in the last issue, we had Johnny Blaze break Loki out of prison because he's going so crazy. He feels like Loki has... I mean, not Loki. What the hell am I talking about? Mephisto. Oh my goodness. Excuse me. I'm going to probably hear about this tomorrow. But yeah, Mephisto. He breaks Mephisto out of prison and he messes up one of the sorcerers, and it's a mess. He's going crazy with power. He's making sloppy decisions, and it seems like it's all going to come around to bite him in the ass because he will not listen to the people who really care about his well-being. Anyway, so yeah, that looks awesome. Check it out. This is probably going to help us understand her perspective on everything better, and really add to the story, hopefully. Well, that's it. It's just a short one this week. I don't know. Let's see how long I've been going for. 13 minutes. Yeah, that's pretty short. It's pretty short for me. Nobody stopped in tonight. That's okay. I do appreciate anyone who does stop in every now and again. And I do appreciate all of you who come by and watch my videos and get recommendations every week. You make it worthwhile for me. Because this is what I love. I love comic books. I got my own comic book I'm working on. It's not really a comic book, though. It's more like a book comic. But I'll tell you more about that later. I found the artist that I'm hoping to work with, and I'm very excited about that. So I'm going to be getting started in a few weeks with them, trying to get everything hammered out. And then eventually I'll put up an Indiegogo campaign. Who isn't doing that? But, I'm not relying on any set audience. My book is going to be vastly different from everything else that's coming out. I don't know if it will have an audience or not, but this is what I want to do. So we'll just see how it turns out. Anyway, appreciate all of you. And I hope you all have a great evening. Yes.